Skippy Lowe.
Oklahoma City. God, but a name like Bernstein in Oklahoma City. Come on, tell me.
The stagecoach broke down between Miami Beach and Beverly Hills. Actually, that's a line made up by Nick Adams. Remember Nick from The Rebel?
Of course, I love Nick.
Johnny Yuma was the Rebel. Yeah, Nick, that was Nick's line. When people would say to me, he'd answer for me.
Jay Bernstein, producer, busy, even an actor. You do some acting, too, in some things.
I did. I was in one of my own movies. I figured no one else was going to hire me.
Right.
So I've hired me to write episodes in my series of Houston Nights or My Camera or Bring 'Em Back Alive. I've also directed the last episode of My Camera that was on the series. I've acted in, let's see, directed, written, acted. I'm in 7 guilds. Warren Beatty and I are the only 2 people that are in 7 guilds, but no one's ever hired me but me. But I figured I should take advantage of the leverage.
Right.
In fact, the show that I directed on My Camera was sent in for an Emmy consideration.
Right.
But it was sent in by the executive producer, which was me.
I love
So
it.
it's like, hey, at least I was considered for an Emmy.
Tell me something. You went to Pomona College?
Pomona College in Claremont, California. There's a difference
Claremont
between...
schools, yes.
Claremont is great. It's got
Yes.
Scripps, it's got the Claremont Men's School. They got like 5 colleges there, but the name Pomona is unfortunate because I'm sure it's a very nice town for the people who live there, but it's nothing like this little town. When I was there, it was 65% of the people were over 65 years old and drove around in electric cars. It was really, it's like a little New England town.
Jay Bernstein, your father, he really didn't want you to come to Hollywood. He wanted you to go back east to college or to become what? He really didn't want you to be in the business.
No,
did he?
that's not true. My father was like Will Rogers. My mother is like Nancy Reagan. It's a very interesting combination. My mother wanted me to go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Dartmouth and to be a doctor or a lawyer. My dad just wanted me to be happy. I lost my dad 11 months ago. In fact, I have his 32nd degree Mason ring is all I have from the estate because that's all I wanted. But he was just one of those people who, in fact, I dedicated the last movie to him because it would never have gotten done. We were so far apart on the license fee on a movie called The Diamond Trap I did with Brooke Shields, Twiggy, Howard Hessman, Ed Marinero. We were $500,000 apart. My dad died, and my friends at CBS and at Columbia got together and just said they'll make the movie while I had to go away for the funeral.
I see.
So I dedicated the movie to my father.
Well, that's very nice, really. Tell me something about Jay Bernstein and that southern accent of yours. I just love that. It's a southern accent, isn't it?
Well, it's Oklahoma. I mean,
Is it
Oklahoma's
Oklahoma?
like Texas, and it only comes out when
It's a charming accent.
Well, it depends who I run into. I mean, I can...
Do you get thicker?
Yeah, when I'm talking to people, like, most people do not think I have an accent, but I must have been speaking to someone. Oh, my best friend came out. That's what it was. For 3 days. I've known him since I was 5, and so now I've picked up. I had one of those ears, like, because I'm an actor.
Yes.
Like you're an actor.
Right.
And we're all actors.
You worked here in Hollywood as a you did cars. You worked in William Morris' office, PR.
When I first came out from Oklahoma, I had $1,000 my dad gave me.
Right.
I lost $600 of it in Vegas on the way here. So I had $400. I ended up in an apartment on National Boulevard in the Hispanic district. I finally got a job the day before I had to be a teller at the Union Bank. I got a job because Hollywood didn't know I was coming for some reason. They didn't get any of my letters. So I got a job at William Morris in the mailroom for $40 a week. But that was from 9:45 to 6:45 at night, and then I worked in beautiful downtown Burbank on an assembly line making ball bearings from 8 at night to 2 in the morning, and I parked cars at Lowry's on La Cienega on the so because I wanted to be in show business.
But you got into a big office called William Morris, and then Rogers and Cowan. But what happened to Rogers and Cowan, Jay? I mean, you decided, hey, I've had enough of this. I want to open my own office. Is that what happened? I
left Rogers and Cowan because of Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield, who I liked very much, didn't understand that I was going with a girl by the name of Leslie Parrish, who you've seen in The Manchurian Candidate. She's now married to Richard Bach, who did Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and I was living with Leslie. But Jane Mansfield thought I should be living with her, and we were having a little bit of a sexual problem with all of this, and so I asked Warren Cowan if he would take me off the Jane Mansfield account, because I loved working. I was handling Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford. I had the Rat Pack, I had Eddie Fisher, I had all those people. But they wouldn't let me off the Jane Mansfield account because she was going to fire them. I did, so I went and I started an office in my girlfriend's spare bedroom.
Right.
And then when we broke up, I got a single apartment. I kept the files in the stove and in the refrigerator, kept out the plugs so that it wouldn't burn up or freeze the files. And I had a guy working for me who could write, and he typed on an ironing board, on a typewriter on an ironing board, because I couldn't afford a table. And and by the way, speaking of writing, I'm getting ready to do a book next. It's called Fired by 600 Stars and Still Smiling.
Fired by 600 Stars.
I'm doing it with Mickey Herskowitz, who wrote the Dan Rather book, the Betty Davis book, the Gene Tierney book, the Gene Autry book, the Michael Deaver book, the Leon Jaworski, the Watergate prosecutors book, and he's doing a book now he's finishing with John Connolly from Texas.
But Jay Bernstein, you're responsible for a lot of these people like Farrah Fawcett, Summers. I mean, I can go down the line. You made a lot of stars. You groomed a lot of stars. Grooming, I think, is your idea. Because you don't look for talent, you look for class. And then the talent comes later. Is that correct? What do you think about that, Jay?
I look for a quality.
Quality, I mean, yes.
What I can do is, if I can fall in love with somebody in 30 minutes, I can just tell by talking to them, then if it's that kind of love, I believe I can make America fall in love with that same person. That's how I felt about Farrah Fawcett, Suzanne Summers, Christy McNichol, Linda Evans, Donna Mills.
You know where you get that
Bruce
quality from?
Boxleitner.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
Clark Gable. That's another Clark Gable.
He was with me last night, and he's playing a Gable part. He is playing the romantic lead, who was just signed this morning in the new Judith Krantz miniseries, 5 hours, called Till We Meet Again. And he plays this very Gable, swashbuckling kind of lover part. That's, I mean, he's just been, it's 8 years for us. And in fact, I'm the godfather to both of his children. And Stacy Keach just made me the godfather to his son. So it's like, you know, there is a payoff in all this somewhere.
So there is no, Jay Bernstein, you don't have regrets then about what happened with all those people that fired you and all those?
No, because I understand it. I understand that when you get them where you want them to be, where they want to be, where the air is rarefied, and they become deified, then I get nullified. It's rarefied, deified, and nullified.
How did you meet Farrah Fawcett?
I introduced Sonny Bono to somebody who became the next Cher for People magazine to put on the cover. He got some heat. He did a $6 million man. We went to the football game with Lee Majors. Sonny talked Lee into being with me when I was a press agent. And Lee said, okay, but you got to handle my wife for nothing. And I said, who's your wife? He said, Farrah Fawcett Majors. She was doing commercials.
You're not married?
No.
Single?
Single. The women I loved enough, I never thought I could get along with well enough to marry them. And the women I got along with well enough, I never loved enough.
But you live alone in a big house, Carol Lombard's old house.
Yes,
Isn't that
she built it right after she, in 1936, when she was divorced from William Powell, and just before she met Clark Gable. They lived for a while in this house, but he had a place out in the valley, and then they moved out there.
What kind of feeling does this house have at night, Jay? I mean, when you're alone in this house, you must have that, there's got to be kind of a ghost spirit there, isn't there? What do you think?
Well, I had a chef there for a long time who said that there was a ghost there. I never saw a ghost. I don't really believe in ghosts.
I see.
Because, see, it's interesting. The chef reminded me of a thing. I've been in this town, like Mike Todd and a lot of different people have been. I've been rich and broke 3 different times. 3? But I've never been poor. Now, here's the difference. When I was broke, I didn't have enough money to go to the supermarket. But I would then have casseroles made out of canned goods that the chef would make. But at least I had a chef. That's the difference between being broke and poor.
So you've really tasted Hollywood?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when Stacy Keach went to jail and I had to go out on the road for 17 months, I put 2 mortgages on Carol Lombard's house to give me enough money to go out and tell the people that you only pay once for a debt, once for a mortgage, and once for a mistake, and the man is paying. Which is my camera, because I'd like to have done that one right
Go ahead. That's okay.
Which I can't see a red light.
You don't?
Which
that's
is my camera.
That one right there.
Oh, that's my camera?
Yeah, right.
Okay, how's it? And then, so we got 400,000 letters of people writing into CBS, and they let us come back as a movie.
Right.
And there were people who wanted to help us and worked for free on the movie. Not the one we just finished, but The Return of My Camera. Mickey Rooney worked for free. Bruce Boxleitner worked for free. Dabney Coleman. Dionne Warwick to help us get back. We did 22 episodes. Then they canceled us with a new regime. Now our first movie we just finished last night called Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer, Murder Takes All, and it's with Linda Carter is guest starring with Stacey and Michelle Phillips, Lyle Alzado, and it's a lot of fun.
Where does Jay Bernstein want to go from here?
To lunch at the Ivy.
No, come on, Jay. What do you really? I mean, you know Hollywood very.
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I'm in the middle right now again.
You're getting, you were away for a while. I mean, but now you're back in the news again. I mean, just now you just had something happen at the Heartbreak.
Well, I was
kind
a
of
hero. This was very heroic. I was sitting there with Bruce Boxleitner and some people, and this guy was being a little rough with a lady. So I asked him to stop, and he told me that he didn't want to, and a few expletives. So I picked up my tossed salad, hit him in the face with my tossed salad, and got him on the side with this hand. Didn't knock him out, because I'm not that big. But what happened is now they've called me, and they're naming it the Jay Bernstein tossed salad at the restaurant, and they're going to have it by next Monday on the menus, and they were offering it last night as their specialty. The Jay Bernstein tossed salad.
Jay Bernstein, do you have a lot?
I love heroes. Alan Ladd was my favorite.
Was he your favorite?
Oh yeah, that's how I grew up. That's how I got into all this.
But he was small. He was
I came out here to meet Alan Ladd. I mean, I was uncoordinated. I was in Oklahoma City, and I was the fattest kid in my class, and I used to tell my parents I was going to sports practice, and I'd get on the bus, go downtown and watch Alan Ladd hit Howard Da Silva to save Veronica Lake, or I'd watch Robert Taylor, or I'd watch Clark Gable, or I would watch John Garfield, or whoever it would be, but I lived through all of these stars. And luckily, I've been able to come out here, and I met Alan Ladd. William Holden was one of my heroes. He took me after the Wild Bunch to Kenya, and I shot the last elephant for conservation hunting.
I love it.
The last elephant shot legally in Kenya in 1973, and I managed Susan Hayward. I managed Glenn Ford.
Tell me about Susan Hayward. Tell me. I just love this lady. She was my favorite lady. She was a lady.
Too.
She was the most powerful lady on film. She was a woman. Tell me about her in person. I mean, how did she...
Well, it was interesting because a lot of people thought Susan was either stuck up or that there was a problem because she was really a loner. What happened was she was myopic, and the glasses she had to wear were this thick, like Arnold Stang. And she didn't want to go out because she says, one time, Jay, I'm sitting there, and John Wayne walks up to me. We've just done the movie together, and I didn't know who it was because she couldn't see. So she didn't want to go out and embarrass herself, so she stayed home. And that's when the town started saying, well, she thinks she's too good for us, because they didn't have contact lenses then, and particularly for people with, who really couldn't see, and she was extremely myopic, and that's what happened. But during her last years, she just said, like in one of her movies, I want to live. So I taught her how to shoot rifles. We went to Africa, and she went on a leopard safari. But the point was she couldn't see the leopard because it was at twilight. So she stayed there till she caught pneumonia. Then we came back. And once I remember calling her, and it took her about 20 times to answer the phone when she was in Fort Lauderdale. I said, what's wrong? I said, you took you 20 times? She said, well, I couldn't get to the phone. I said, why? She said, well, I broke my ankle. I said, how'd you break your ankle, Susan? She's in her 50s now. She says, my motorcycle fell on it. I said, your what? So my motorcycle fell on it. I said, what are you doing on a motorcycle? She said, well, I met this pilot, and we went scuba diving. I mean, this lady loved life, and she was one of the nicest people in the whole world.
I'm looking at you. You love life. It seems like Jay Bernstein really loves Hollywood. Why do you love Hollywood so much, Jay Bernstein?
Well, I've always needed role models in my life, and I had them. When I was a kid, we had the presidents, we had the military, we had whether it was MacArthur or whatever, but ever since Watergate, we haven't had any political heroes. Ever since Vietnam, we haven't had any military heroes, Eisenhower's and Pattons and people. So what happens is that only leaves sports, and we don't have a lot of sports heroes because they do commercials for electric eye garages, electric lawnmowers, and pantyhose. And so it left it down to music, and I don't like what music says. I like the Julie Budd kind of music, but I'm talking about the guys with the green hair and the spike bracelets and telling you all sorts of bad things. You know, Ozzy Osbourne, all this. It was the actors. So I helped to create the image of the 70s, which was Farrah Fawcett,
Farrah
which was
Fawcett.
anti-alcohol, anti-drugs, pro-exercise. I brought back the heroes.
That's right.
Because when I came along, we had what was called the President Carter Soft Detectives.
Right.
Barnaby Jones, Cannon.
Yeah.
I brought in, with the Ronald Reagan era,
Right.
Mike Hammer, which
is good.
bequeathed The Equalizer, Spencer for Hire, The Hunter. All of those came
Yes.
with me, and the actors that became the younger heroes, like the Allen Lads, etc.
Right. You mentioned Julie Budd, wonderful singer. America's
Fantastic singer.
one of great pure singers. She's a pure singer, no gimmicks. She has no gimmicks at all.
She's one of my
Julie-
favorites.
Julie
Thank you.
Budd, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I'm loving this.
Are
I'm
you
listening
really?
to this whole
You
thing.
know, this man is Mr. Hollywood, really.
He
really,
is.
isn't he?
But you
How
can
does-
only do this in America. I mean, I'm listening to this,
Oh.
and here's this nice Jewish boy from Oklahoma City.
Bernstein, yeah.
Bernstein. And, he was sort of, well, I get the feeling you were sort of introverted as a child.
I wasn't introverted, I was just fat and not coordinated.
And
Oh,
a thinker. And
a thinker, yes,
you know.
yes, yes.
And he had a dream, and look what he's done with his
Isn't
life.
that great? But
You
you
can't
had a
do
dream.
that anywhere else.
But you had a dream, Judy. You were just a little girl, not even a teenager.
That's right.
And you went upstate New York and sang.
Yeah.
And
Well,
what happened?
I was I knew what I wanted to do when I was this big.
What happened
You
to
know, a lot of kids
You did
don't.
talent shows up there, and then Merv Griffith came into your life.
That's right.
Tell me about the Merv
Well, there's a
Okay.
Bernstein in my life by the name of Herb Bernstein, whose brother's Jay Bernstein also. You Jay Bernsteins keep following me around.
Okay.
I was in the Catskill Mountains. I was doing I was like 11 years old. I was doing a talent show.
Uh-huh.
My cousin said, I bet you won't go into this show. And I said, sure I will. You know, bet you won't jump off the building. Of course I will. So I won the contest. Herb Bernstein was there.
Uh-huh. What was the song? I want to know the song. Do you remember the song?
I did 2 tunes. I did Moon River,
Uh-huh.
and I did Who Could I Turn To.
Uh-huh.
I was very dramatic. Anyway, so
At 11.
I won the contest, and Herbie cut a demonstration record on me. My parents did not want me in show business.
They didn't.
Oh, please. I mean, only bums are in show business,
Uh-huh.
and a girl to
Uh-huh.
have a daughter in show
Uh-huh.
business
From New York.
from New York. Right, Orthodox Jewish family.
Uh-huh.
You know, to have a daughter in show business, they'd rather die.
Right.
You know, so and they supported it because they knew I really, really wanted to do it. But they were really, really watching with a keen eye. They were
Right.
very, very worried about me.
Uh-huh.
Herbie was recording Merv Griffin because he's basically an arranger and a conductor and a producer of recorded projects.
Right.
And Merv was at the session. He was recording Merv, and on the break, Merv heard me sing, and 2 days later, he put me on the show. And you see, I was only 12 years old when I met Merv, and I couldn't work clubs. I was underage.
Underage, right.
And there were a
Okay.
lot of concert halls I couldn't
Right,
work because
exactly.
they had a lot of booze that they were selling
Uh-huh,
at these places. And in certain states, you can't do that. In Nevada, you could do anything. When I was 13 years old, 14 years old, I could work Nevada. I could work Tahoe. I could work Reno. I could work Vegas.
But you work at Atlantic City, and they just gave you Entertainer Award of
Well,
the Year.
they
Honored you?
They have a whole thing where they have, people who are singers and actors and special acts, and they name certain people, and they acknowledge certain performers that they like, you know. I'm excited because we just did the back lot, and
Here in Hollywood.
and I didn't know what was going to happen because I haven't been in L.A. in 3 years, you know. And they turned
stay in
away
New
about
York?
2,000 people.
You live in New York now, huh? 2,000 people?
Something like that. People are still calling saying, is she there? Is she there? And, you know, I only took 1 weekend because I didn't know what was going to happen. I figured, well, I'll just go in and see, you know. But I was overwhelmed. And they were lined up at Robertson Boulevard, and I was pulling up in the car, and I said, Herbie, what are all these people doing here? They were carrying chairs. And the fire department called and said, if they bring in one more chair, we close down the place. So I'm going back for 2
How
weeks.
wonderful. Jay, do you ever handle singers? Do you ever, when you go out in
sure.
cabarets and see some talent like Julie, a young girl, do you see that certain extra, it's got to be that certain extra spark too, isn't it?
But I've never really been in the music business except when I had a PR firm. But
Right.
I handled Sammy Davis Jr. for 13
Yeah, exactly.
years,
I
Dionne
understand
Warwick,
that. Yeah, right.
So you know what it is.
Chicago,
So,
yeah,
Blood,
yeah,
Sweat,
you've
and
handled
Tears,
the tops of all.
Yeah,
Yes, I understand.
Dean Martin. I had like 50 Rick Nelson,
Uh-huh.
all those people. But as a manager, I never handled any Advatula Clark, Aretha Franklin, Dusty Springfield, and Diana Ross when they were the four top at one time.
Right,
But you know,
right,
Jay,
right.
when you're in PR, I've always thought that PR people were like extended managers.
They are.
You know,
Yeah, they
it's
are.
a natural
They really
progression
are.
to go
Yes.
from public relations to management because,
Right.
you know, sometimes you're even more creative than the manager. And you get to know things about the artist that maybe the manager doesn't see. He's too close. You have to be creative. You have to come in and find things about them that other people don't see so that you can
Yes.
be creative. I really think that people from PR make great managers.
I gotta tell you, like my press agent, Anita Alberts, is sitting over there. When I went on the road for Stacy for 17 months, she set up a schedule, and I was right there with Jacqueline Smith selling whatever she was selling, and Sidney Sheldon with his thing, and she was able to do that, which I don't think any manager or anybody else could have done that for me.
That's right. And they always go into management.
Even Larry King gave me 3 hours.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I love
He's
Larry
terrific.
King. I think
He's
he's the
terrific.
greatest.
Great.
Greatest on TV. You brought a tape. I'd like to see that tape.
Wanna see
From,
my
what is
tape?
it from?
I was co-hosting a telethon here in town.
I love that song. May
We've
I?
Got Tonight by Bob Seger.
And love to hear it.
Okay.
Love to play it and roll it.
I know it's late. I know you're weary. I know your plans don't include me. Still here we are, both of us lonely, longing for shelter, for all that we see. Why should we worry? No one will care. Look at the stars so far away. We got tonight. Who needs tomorrow? We got tonight, babe. Why don't you stay?
Legends, legends. She has worked with
I know.
legends. God,
Your
that's great.
clients.
Oh, tell me something about Frank Sinatra, Jimmy Durante.
Well, Jimmy Durante was adorable. I had a great time with Jimmy Durante.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah. He did his
very
last performance in Vegas with me. And he was terrific. And audiences loved him. And I learned something about people like Liberace and Jimmy Durante. They loved their audience.
They loved their audience.
They loved their audience.
Does Julie love her audience?
Yeah, she
Do you?
does. Because they're real loyal to me. You know, they don't come to my show because I'm hot at the moment or I'm cold at the moment. Or they come there because they want to be involved with what I'm doing. And they've been doing that, and I appreciate that.
You spend a lot of time in New York, Julie?
Yeah, I bounce. I have an apartment in New York and have an apartment here in L.A.
Does people say, Julie Budd, she sounds so much like Streisand?
No.
They don't?
People said that when I was a child.
When you were a child?
When I was a child. Yeah.
Ah,
it's really
that's
strange. When
interesting.
I was a child, they said that.
Jay, look at her eyes. Aren't they gorgeous? She has the most gorgeous eyes.
I already asked her
You
if I
have?
could come see her show
She-
and have a drink with her afterwards and look in her eyes.
I
Her
told
eyes
him we
are
didn't have to
beautiful.
change the initials on the towels.
Spillane, come on. Tell me, how did that show become about?
I was on
the
an
Mickey
airplane
Spillane.
flying from L.A. to New York, and I made some of my biggest deals flying first class.
Uh-huh.
'Cause if you know,
Is that how you
Yeah.
do it, Jay?
That's it?
I was
That's
sitting there, and I look over, and there's Mickey Spillane, my childhood hero.
Uh-huh.
And he's reading a newspaper, he's got on that pork pie hat. And I look over, and I said, she walked towards me, her hips waving a happy hello. And he put down the paper, and he looked, and he laughed, and thing. And then he picked up the paper again, because I guess, you know, he's been through this before.
Uh-huh.
He said, women stuck to my camera like lint on a blue serge suit. and then we started talking, and he said that I really don't deal in Hollywood. I haven't in 15 years because I don't really like the people there. And he told me what he didn't like about him, but by the time we landed, I guess he didn't think I was one of those. So we made a deal for $1 in the beginning to gave me the rights to be partners on my camera. And Mickey has just written, first time in 15 years, he's got a new Mike Hammer book coming out.
Really?
Yeah, a new Mickey Spillane Mike Hammer book. You know, the first one was I, the Jury, you know, back in the 40s, and it's just come out, and it's going to be out in about 5 months.
But do you have a woman in your life now, Jay? Come on. Get secret person, you know, that you don't let people know about? Certain girl?
Did I hide in the closet?
Yeah, because you're 50 years old, you know, you're a good-looking guy, you know.
50 years old? I'm 40 years
40
old.
years old? 40 years old? Forgive me.
41,
40. Okay, 41.
42,
Whatever. I'm sorry. I
43.
made a mistake. I'm 50. But anyway, you know, let's face it. You're a good-looking guy, you know, eligible. Bernstein, you know.
Well, so why
Tell
do you
me.
just have to have one?
Well, you have many. I know you
Well,
have
I-
many. Everybody knows you have many, but you must have
I
that
don't ask
certain...
you about your sex life.
No, you must have some special lady hidden away that you planning to get married soon? No?
No, I'm not planning to
not?
get married soon.
You're not?
No.
How about you? Do you have a man in your life?
I was married and divorced.
Were
so
you married,
Yeah.
too?
Did you know that? I was
No, I
married
did
for
not.
7 years. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. In fact, when I met you, I was married.
I see.
Yeah.
When I interviewed her last time. Do you have any children?
I raised his son.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I don't see myself getting married, not unless I wanted to have children. If I met someone that I was wild, I would have to be so wild about that person to want to get married, because I don't see myself being married right now. But you know,
Will you marry me?
Jay,
I'll have
see?
Chinese food with you, and then we'll talk, okay?
Chinese food. You
Well,
see that? I love
That's
it.
the first time I ever proposed to
Lovely
anybody.
Jewish girl with the Chinese food. Julie, you seem very happy.
I am happy.
Are you?
I feel like I'm in a very, very good place.
You're
in my
satisfied
life.
right now?
And I'm enjoying Los Angeles in a way that I never have before. It's interesting. I really made that sort of transition.
What makes it, Julie? I mean, because
I must just be ready to be here now. I think sometimes, you know, it just gets down to that kind of thing. I'm just ready to be
Yes,
here,
yes.
you know.
Jay, you spent a lot of time in Hollywood.
I've-
New York?
No, here.
You never lived in New
you
York,
don't like
Jay?
New York, or do you
No,
go
I
back and
like
forth?
to stay here.
You like Hollywood?
Yeah.
Did you
I
ever
stay
live in
here.
New York?
No.
No?
He's not a New York man.
No, he's
Jay
not,
Bernstein is
no.
strictly California. He loves California. He's considered Mr. California, Hollywood. Really? Why do they consider you Mr. Hollywood? You have discovered a lot of stars like Farrah Fawcett and Summers. And tell me about Summers, first of all. What kind of girl is she?
Suzanne is lovely. She has, in fact, when my house burned down, part of the Carol
Right.
Lombard house, she offered me her home, which was the Gypsy Rose Lee home.
Uh-huh.
She has 5.